Welcome to the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast. My name is Katie Dodd, and I'm a nutrition entrepreneur. I spent 7 years as a side hustler before diving into entrepreneurship full time. Before making the leap, I was bringing in 6 figures through my side hustle. If I can do it, you can too. This podcast is for dietitians, interns, and students who want to be inspired to start or perfect the side hustle of their dreams. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to the 199th episode of the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast, a conversation with Grace Guthrie, dietetic intern extraordinaire. Grace has been working with me for quite a while in different capacities. She's currently a dietetic intern at the University of Kansas Medical Center, and we are doing a rotation together right now. Today is our last day. We've been working together for 4 weeks, and it's been so lovely. And this rotation has been her practice area of interest rotation. So where she kind of gets to pick, what do you want to do? What do you want to learn about in the world of, dietetics? And she picked working with me to learn a little bit more about being an entrepreneur. So I first met Grace in the summer of 2023 when she was a volunteer with the Geriatric Dietitian Volunteer Program. This is a volunteer program that I periodically run through my blog, The Geriatric Dietitian. So she came in when she was a student, volunteered, and then said, "Hey, Katie, can I be an intern in my rotation?" I was super happy to have her back. So for our last day, we decided let's actually bring you on the podcast, which I'm really excited about because I've actually never brought one of my interns on the podcast. I love working with students. Yeah, I love working with students. I will say, if you're a student listening, I never say no. So if you want to volunteer, if you want to do an internship rotation with me, just all you have to do is ask. Well, let me just say I very seldom say no. There could be a situation where I just can't, but I really do love working with students, mostly because I love being a dietitian and I want to show people what's possible. And there's this whole other wonderful world of entrepreneurship out there. So I guess we've got some questions that we're going to run through, Grace. But before we dive in, well, actually, I'll just dive in the first question. Tell me more about yourself and what actually brought you into dietetics.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me on, Katie. I have really enjoyed this rotation. I even in the fall, I knew that I really wanted to do this in the spring. But yeah, so my name's Grace. I am from the Kansas City area, on the Kansas side, but by about a half mile. So I really came to dietetics as kind of a non-traditional student. My first degree is actually in French and psychology. I went to St. Olaf College in southern Minnesota, and French was a big part of my life. I went to a French immersion elementary school and I love the language. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it, but I just loved it. So I figured we'll just study this. We'll get a degree in this. And it was kind of the same with psychology. I just found the classes fascinating. But I got to the end of my college career and all of my friends knew what they were doing. And I knew that I did not want to teach French and I did not want to get my doctorate in psychology to be a therapist. So I did what you would do. I just went to France for a year and I taught English, kind of like the Teach for America program. And that gave me a little bit more time to really think about what I wanted to do while still doing things that I loved. I do enjoy teaching, just maybe not as like a forever career, but I love French. I love French food, pastries. It was a good time. And while I was there, I kind of started to think about what I could do as a career, and nutrition was in the back of my mind a little bit. I have a peanut allergy, and so nutrition has really always been a part of my life, even if I didn't think of it. But I always had to read labels. I always had to watch what I was eating just to make sure that I wasn't going to have a reaction. Um, and so I decided to really look more into it. And K-State, Kansas State University, which is not too far from me, had a really great program. It was all online. I could get a job and work while doing it. So that just seemed like the best thing to do. And so that's kind of what I did for 5 years. I worked at Garmin International in Kansas City. And then I started my internship in the fall. And it's kind of a long time coming, but it's been really exciting. I got my master's with K-State as well. So I'm all ready to take the RD exam here in about a month. But that's kind of how I got to dietetics. And it was kind of a windy road, but we got here.
That's awesome. And I love that story. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. They get to the end of their degree, they go to school, and all of a sudden they're like, well, gosh, I just spent a lot of time and money figuring out what I don't want to do.
Hmm.
But what I
Yep.
love about your story is that you didn't choose, like, okay, I'm just going to do this anyways. I'm going to suck it up and hate my job and be miserable. You decided, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to take this extra time and take this extra step and pursue something that I'm passionate about. And, I actually didn't realize until today that your first major was psychology and French. My first
Yeah.
major when I went into school was actually psychology, and I chose psychology because I wanted to help people. But then for
Hmm.
me, I took one psychology class and I was like, no, thank you. I figured it out
That
real
was
quick.
enough.
Yeah, yeah. So anyways, that's just another little fun connection we have. So what do you think are some of the benefits of being a non-traditional student? Someone who maybe you got a degree in something else and you've decided, oh, you know what? I'm going to pivot and, go back to school.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of benefits. I think really anytime you come into a situation or a career change and you have that previous work or education experience, you're just bringing a different perspective to the group. How I see that is like I've worked, a 40-hour work week. I've worked a regular person job. I've worked customer service where you just get people that are not having a great day and they call you and they take it out on you a little bit. And, once you have done that, you really understand what's going on in a situation better. And I think going into my internship, the same thing happens when you're in your clinical rotation. I would go see a person and we were going to talk about their new renal diet and they weren't having a great day. And maybe they weren't super nice to me and they didn't really listen to what I had to say. But having already had that experience, I can understand right away that that's what's happening. This is not a personal thing. This is not a bad person. And they don't even necessarily not want to learn what I'm bringing to the table. They're just in the hospital and they don't feel good.
Oh,
And so it's like, well, duh, they're not in a great mood and they probably haven't slept well. And I'm just another person in scrubs coming to tell them something that they may or may not remember. And so I think just bringing that other perspective, I see that a lot with other non-traditional students, and that's by no means saying that a traditional student cannot also bring that. But I think it's just different when you've already like been in the working world. And I think it's also nice to work with people of different ages. I think throughout my education, I was always working with people who were my same age or within a year or two. And now I'm working with people that are 6 years younger than I am, which is a pretty considerable gap. And I have really enjoyed it because I get to see kind of how, like, I'm a millennial and I get to see how Gen Z's minds work and where they have really great strengths. And I love that. Or maybe some places where, like, we must have just learned this differently. And I think that can be really interesting and beneficial just to work with people who are kind of in a different life stage than you. You can really gain a lot. And I think that I would like to think that they've gained some from working with students who are a little bit older than they are. But I think there are a lot of benefits. It's challenging for sure, but it can be, I think you can kind of add to any situation when you just bring other experiences.
yeah. So it sounds like just the life experience and perspective that being a non-traditional student has given you has been very valuable. And you are like
Mhm.
so close to the end. You said 1 month until you are ready to potentially take the exam.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm shooting for end of May, but might be early June. We'll see.
So exciting. Okay, so why did you want to intern with the geriatric dietitian, my blog, and essentially do this rotation?
Yeah. So, I mean, as Katie mentioned earlier, I did the volunteer program. And even before that, really last year, I finished my master's in December of 2022. And I was going to do my internship from August of 2023 to May 2024. But I had a chunk of time where I I was only working, which I mean, I say only working as if I wasn't working a full-time job, but I was used to working and doing school. And so all of a sudden, I had a ton of extra time where I didn't really know what to do. I mean, there was no point starting to study for the RD exam. I was going to do that a year later.
Yeah.
And I was starting to also think more about my career and what I wanted to do once I was done with the internship. For so long, the internship seemed like the thing at the end of the tunnel, but
Yeah.
really the career is the thing at the end of the tunnel. The internship is like the
Yeah.
narrowing of the tunnel. But anyway, so I started to think about like, do I want to go into clinical? Do I want to go into food service? And a lot of those options didn't seem particularly attractive to me. Also, not having done them yet, I didn't really know what it looked like. But I'd always kind of been interested in more of an entrepreneurial, I don't know, career path. I thought a lot about private practice, and I'm not putting that off the table, but I started to learn about other ways you could be an entrepreneur, and blogging really stood out to me. And I don't remember where I first saw it, but I definitely attended one of your master classes where you're talking about blogging as a business, and it just like really made sense of it's not easy. Like it's not just going to be you write a blog article, you get 50,000 clicks, you get to Mediavine, done. It's definitely the long game, but I really love writing. I've always loved writing. And I'm really passionate about like a specific topic. A lot of people struggle to find a niche, and I never felt that because food allergies were my niche, and I've always known that food allergies were kind of my niche. So I felt like I was already kind of a little bit ahead of the game just in that sense. And so I figured, I'll take this semester and summer to start a blog. And I researched a lot. I looked into like how to start a blog. I hired a blog coach who I was looking a lot at different blog programs. And as someone who's like preparing for a year without pay, I was really skimping. So I was trying to find the most inexpensive things I could do because every purchase felt like I need to justify this because I'm not going to have an income for 10 months. Um, but anyway, so that was kind of how I got into blogging. And as soon as I did, then I saw like a couple months later your volunteer program. And by that point, I knew how valuable backlinks were. And so I was like, this is amazing. I already like to write. I've got some time. I could write about nutrition for the elderly. I could write about high calorie stuff. So I was really excited to see that. And once I got into it, I really did enjoy it. And I just knew that it could bring so much value to learn more about specifically blogging, but also just the entrepreneurial side. And when your blog manager mentioned that you took on students, or I think you mentioned it in one of our calls, and I really held on to that. And just it was something that I had always kind of wanted to do since learning about it. So that was really it because I wanted to learn more about how to be an entrepreneur in the field of dietetics in case I didn't find a particular calling in my rotation. So yeah, that was kind of what drew me to this type of rotation.
Yeah, I love that. And I also like that because your internship is well rounded. You've done so many things, but the world of
Mhm.
entrepreneurship is a total different beast. So I'm
It is.
so glad that you did the volunteer program. You were, Allie had mentioned you before, and you did such a good job writing articles. I am grateful for you. And it's been very fun with the time we've been working together. So maybe tell people a little bit more about how this entrepreneurial rotation has been different from your other rotations. And would you recommend something like this to others?
Yeah, definitely. So my other rotations were great. Honestly, I really liked all my rotations. And I did like that I went in there and they knew what I was going to be doing for the most part. And it was very structured. And I am an organized person. I do like structure. So I got to say that did really appeal to me. And I love getting different experiences. But something about this entrepreneur, like this rotation, has definitely opened my eyes to more of the flexibility that you can really expect with this type of career. I've loved that, like when we get on calls to talk about my projects, it's not, these are the projects I want you to do. And like, if you want to change them up a little bit, you can, but these are really the things that you need to work on. For my other rotations, we had projects that we had to do that project and we could do it how we wanted, but that was the project we had to do. And I really appreciate that we would get on a call and it wasn't like that. It was more, I have some ideas of projects that you could do. And I know that you have some things that you do, like some kind of criteria you need to fill with projects. However, what you do is really what you want to do. So we can talk about ways that you can meet those and we can figure out something together. And it was very collaborative. And I felt like I really got a say. And, I like writing blog posts. And so I wrote a couple in the very beginning. And then at the end, I just went back and wrote another one because that's something I enjoy doing. And I know it will benefit me as a future blogger or current blogger. Um, so I say that is really different. And also the time flexibility is really nice and the being able to work from home. A couple weeks ago, my mom had back surgery and being able to just take my laptop and spend the day over at my parents' house and take care of their dogs for the day is not something I could have done during my other rotations. I just I'm sure that my preceptors would have wanted to let me do that, but realistically, I couldn't do my clinical rotation from my parents' house on my personal laptop. Like it just wouldn't work. And, I need to get up during the day. The dogs got to go out. They're senior dogs. They need like special care. And so having that flexibility and being able to tell my parents, like, yeah, I can come over and it's fine. And it's not going to interrupt my work. Like I'll still be able to do my work, was just really nice and something that I just really appreciated. So I think there are a ton of benefits. I would totally recommend it if you even are thinking a little bit about entrepreneurship. Um, you really get a good view of what it's like from the inside and like what the possibilities are. I had the opportunity to do some trainings too, which is a huge part of entrepreneurship, as I've learned. I know Katie always says, like, if you find something you want to do, you got to find someone and then pay for it. Because if you don't pay for it, you might not get as much out of it. But if you pay for it, you're going to like pay attention. And I do really think that is true. That's easier said than done in certain situations. Like last year, I couldn't do that because I was about to not be paid. This year, I can't really do that because I'm not paid. But once you're in a situation where you can, it is super beneficial. And I think seeing all the value you can get from trainings and paying other experts is something that I wasn't fully expecting, but I definitely saw during the rotation. So I would highly recommend it if you're interested in entrepreneurship, or even if you just don't know what you want to do.
And I think with the dietetic internship, what's so cool is you get to find out what you like and don't like. Dietetics is amazing because
Definitely.
there's so many things you could do. One
Hmm.
thing that's unique about our entrepreneurial rotation is that I don't see patients. So really what
Yeah.
we're doing is more like blogging, social media, marketing, lead acquisition, different things like that. But it was really fun that right when you got into the rotation, you were actually able to participate in the Invincible Challenge. I've talked about it on the
Yeah.
podcast, and this
Mhm.
was a free 5-day challenge that my business coach did. So right off the bat, you got a taste of business coaching, which was so fun.
Definitely. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that was definitely like an experience with different business coaches. I've watched other master classes and seen other business coaches, and they all are so different that I really value getting to see that. And the extra exciting thing was that they were doing giveaways, and I won $150 on night three. I think it was three. And wow, I told some of my coworkers or my coworkers, my other interns, and I was like, guys, I actually made money during this internship. I got paid. And they were very jealous. So
I love
gotta
that.
give that a little plug.
Yeah, well, I was so excited because my business coach, Greg Todd, likes giving away money. He has a fun money
Hmm.
wheel, and you get money for doing your homework. So, or not money, you get an entry into a drawing for doing your
Yes, the
homework.
chance. Yeah.
Yep,
Hmm.
yep. And so I was on, and I saw they drew Grace's name. I'm like, it's Grace. And then when they did the money wheel, she got like the highest one possible. There was only one on there
Hmm.
that said 150, and like I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
I know what it feels like to be a student. That's like huge. So
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, it was the best
I know
thing
my
ever.
parents were like, what are you gonna spend it on? Like, don't just go save it. And I was like, "Ah, I don't know, but that's like what I usually do is just save it. But I should spend it on a good dinner, like some new shoes or something, but we'll see.
Absolutely should. And honestly, what you got from that training though, those 5 days of business coaching is
Hmm.
something that you could apply to your own business later, which will be so much more valuable than
Definitely.
$150. But yeah, that was
That's
super fun.
true.
Like I
It's
wish.
good, like a immediate reward and then long-term reward.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you got to come to the Invincible Challenge. You got to win some money. You wrote 3 blog articles when we're together, and you're a really good blog
Mhm.
writer. Like you bust them out very fast. You also made this really amazing workbook that we're going to have printed out for Dietitian Side Hustle Live. The previous podcast episode, I talked about Dietitian Side Hustle
Oh
Live, but you
yeah, yeah,
created a
yeah.
really wonderful workbook that's going to help people who attend. So I'm very excited for that. And then you did
Hmm.
a bunch of content and trainings related to Pinterest for the blog, and
Yep. A lot of
then
pins.
this podcast episode. So we've been doing some really fun stuff together.
Yeah, definitely like a really wide variety of things too.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. So tell us what you want to do after your internship. The end is very near. What's the future look like for you, Grace?
I know the big question. So I definitely want to still keep with my entrepreneur activities. Like I haven't had as much time to work on my blog this year, which I knew would happen. I mean, it was a busy year. Anyone who's done the dietetic internship knows that there's not just a lot of free time. So I want to get back to that once I have a job and I'm not doing a job and schoolwork on top of that. That's always been something I wanted to get back to. I don't have something fully lined up right now, which is a little stressful because I know other interns do, but at the same time, I'm trying to remember that I have a lot of great things kind of in the works. I've been applying for different positions, a little bit more in the wellness sphere. or maybe some food service management. I think school nutrition is really interesting. And some others that are more with like larger wellness companies trying to be like a program manager. I think that is something that's a little entrepreneur adjacent, just in the fact that you get to help people build a program and you get to maybe like design some programs of your own. And so I think that's what I'm kind of looking for in the immediate. I love being an entrepreneur, but I also think I need to kind of have maybe a more traditional role first to kind of build that knowledge and build that experience base and like maybe save a little bit of money, and then get more into the entrepreneur. So I'm definitely glad to have the experience and know what the future holds, even if maybe I'm not going there like right away.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And so much of getting like your first job out of school, some of it's just about timing. It's about what jobs are open in the
Yeah.
area you want to live with the things you want to do. So the right job will
Hmm.
come for you. And it might be for a season, it might be for a longer season. But
Yeah.
one thing we know is that you're already kind of a side hustler. You are a blogger. You have your blog, Foods with Grace. And even once you get this job, you're still going to have this little side hustle that you're building up that
Hmm.
hopefully will make more money. So you are an
Yeah.
entrepreneur regardless of what traditional route you go down. So tell people a little bit about where they can find you online. I know we haven't really talked about your blog, but let people know where they can connect with you online.
Yeah, definitely. So my blog is foodswithgrace.com. And I write a lot about nut allergies and kind of research around food allergies. I'm going to expand into more food allergies, like the top nine. I've been kind of focusing on peanuts and tree nuts just because I have a peanut allergy. And so I'm most familiar with those two. But I'm that's like kind of one of the good places to see what I'm doing. I also do have like a LinkedIn account that I like to kind of network with. So if you find me on that, it's Grace Guthrie. And yeah, I love to connect with people on that. I also have an Instagram. It's Gibby Guthrie. So anyone can follow me on that or see. I try to post some of my blog things on there, and definitely nutrition. Any like fancy pictures or conference pictures. I love to do that on there. So yeah, I would love to connect with any other RDs or dietetic interns or dietetic students who aren't even at their internship yet. Any questions anyone has, I'm happy to answer.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, definitely be sure to send your clients to Foods with Grace if you're needing some good resources related to allergies. I mean, you just go to the section on our blog and I know it's something you're going to continue to add to, but already
Hmm.
there's a ton of content, honestly, already. I've just been so impressed with what you've been able to do and the time that you've been an intern and student. But so we're pretty much done with our questions. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
I really just like thank you, Katie, for letting me do this. I was really excited when you said that you were able to take it on because I know this rotation for me was 120 hours, which is not a small amount of hours. It's not a crazy amount, but it still is work to take on interns. And any other entrepreneurs out there, like if you guys are able to take on interns, we really appreciate it. That's something I love about the dietetics community is that I've reached out to so many RDs for informational interviews or just to say like I'm interested in this field, would you like just tell me what your day looks like? And the only answers I get are yes, or maybe they don't see my message, so I don't get a response, which is fine. I get that. You're not going to get a response to every message. But every time I talk to somebody, they're happy to tell me about what they do. I had an hour-long conversation with a woman yesterday that I've never met her before, but I said I was interested in her job, and she said, let's get on Zoom and talk about it. And I really appreciate that. So just dietetic interns, don't be afraid to reach out to people. And if you are an RD, just thank you for, helping us students out and young RDs. Everyone is really welcoming and I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. And you're so right. And that message, I will say, that is for students, interns, and other dietitians. If there is
Hmm.
something that you want to do, reach out, have a conversation with someone, talk to them about it. So often the opportunities are there. We just have to be the ones to step out and ask. And so I'm so glad that you stepped
Definitely.
out and asked to be an intern. And it's been so fun working with you. Thank you for coming on the podcast, sharing a little bit of your story. And I cannot wait to continue to watch your journey as you pursue traditional employment, pursue entrepreneurship, and all the things. So, thank you so much, Grace. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening to the podcast. And I'll see you guys next week on the podcast.